Hello, Voices from the Bench community. Pat Kuhn from Ivoclar here. Innovation and education are inseparable partners in our profession, where continuous change offers you the opportunity to raise the bar of dental care and elevate what is clinically and technically possible. So we at Ivoclar have created Ivoclar Academy, where we support you through cutting-edge educational programs and resources. We understand that you have busy schedules and individual preferences for learning. To help leverage your time and maximize your learning experience, the Academy has educational opportunities that are easily accessible and fit any learning style. Whether you are looking for an in-person program or for virtual education, Ivoclar Academy offers multi-channel opportunities that allow you to learn at home, in the classroom, in the office, or on the go. In addition, we offer CE-accredited learning opportunities. You can receive a certificate of attendance for each CE-eligible program or training course completed from the Ivoclar Academy. Simply log on to ivoclar.com and click on the Academy link located at the top of the page to get started. Happy learning.
Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Greetings and welcome to episode 322 of Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis.
My name is Barbara.
What's happening, Barb? How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
So we're releasing this on Memorial Day, so it's Saturday today, and we have 3 days off.
Yes, we do. And my big plans are getting caught up on editing since...
Yay!
my laptop showed up.
That is so beautiful. I swear to God, that is just so cool.
10 days after losing this thing at the Barcelona airport, it is finally in my possession, and I'm extremely happy to say, because it's the first thing I checked, that all the exocad Insight recordings are intact and ready to go.
Fantastic. Did you give it a big kiss?
I did. You, of course, saw my post on Facebook where I was basically making out with it, so...
Right.
But again, thank you, Jamie Morano. I mean, my hero. Can't wait to release his conversation we had with him, but I just can't say how lucky I am all around to have everything back.
You and I were both crying when you sent me that message. I was like, no...
Yeah.
So, yeah. Grateful what we are.
Yeah. Somebody online did suggest that I just reach out to exocad just to have the event again to re-record everybody, and I was down for that. I mean, really, I'd go back.
Yeah. If we had to, I mean, if you had to yank a tooth out and I'd send me back to Spain, I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, we would have sacrificed.
Yeah, it would have been hard, but we would have done it.
Yeah. You all busy right now? I just seem to be really just cranking right now.
Very.
Yeah?
Like when I say very, I mean, I am 2 times the volume as I checked last May.
Double.
And last April, and I'm double.
Holy
moly.
And
same team, same everything, double. That's crazy.
Wow, and you actually get all 3 days off this weekend.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I needed it. So, yeah, I'm going to run just like you. I'm going to run. I'm going to watch movies. I'm going to lay out in the sun, and I'm going to relax.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope the whole industry is this busy.
Yeah, me too. I think so.
I kind of gather it, just talking to other people, looking online. I think we're just all cranking. Good for us.
Yeah.
But guess what? We are less than 2 weeks away from the FDLA, or the Florida Dental Lab Association's Southern States Symposium and Expo. I love the name of their show, by the way.
I do too.
It sounds like the World's Fair. Yeah.
Yep.
It's happening June 7th and 8th in Orlando, Florida. Now, I was checking out this schedule, and this show has everything.
It's hard work.
Yeah, great courses. Yeah, you were part of this, right?
Yes.
Some great courses that have so many past podcast guests that are speaking, which I always love to highlight. So,
I know.
Tay Harvey, our good friend from Annex, she's the opening keynote speaker.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see Tay speak at Ladies of the Mill. Definitely everybody go check out Tay. She's wonderful on stage. And then we have you, our very own Barb, who's on
Yep.
stage with past guest Alexander Wunchez. And then they just come at us real fast. We got Peter Peasy, Mark Chan, Thomas Zaliski, Ira Rosendahl, Daniel Alter, Kite Sato, who we just had on.
Buddy.
Yeah, Gary Morgan, Josh Williams, who is the 3D printing guy, the metal printing guy.
Oh, and he made us the keychains.
Yes, he is going to have some pretty cool metal printed keychains with our logo on it. So definitely worth going to show just to get that, obviously.
I'm getting one.
Oh, of course. And so many more that have not been on the podcast, but hopefully will be on the podcast that weekend.
Yeah, because we're going to be set up and talking to people when I'm not doing my little board duties.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Of course, we're going to be recording all weekend, as you said, but we're going to be with the good people of Jensen Dental.
Thank you, Jensen Dental.
Yeah, they were nice enough to host us at their booth, which, again, I just love the spot. As soon as you walk into that expo hall, boom. We are right there. You can't miss us. There's so many years we used to be in a corner, but not this time.
Not anymore. You don't put baby in a corner.
So come join us, say hi, and of course, head over to FDLA.net for all the great information and to register. So this week, we finally get to talk to a guy who's been on our radar for a while just because he has so much knowledge of 3shape design, Cole Bishop. So, if you know, Cole is that big muscular guy that you see at the shows talking about 3shape design services and 3shape Automate. Cole comes on to talk about his extensive history in dental labs, starting back to the model room, learning digital at our Treasure Dental Studios, and finding a home at Full Contour doing quality control for their designers that are stationed all around the world. As we know from previous episodes, Full Contour has become 3shape design services, and Cole has played a huge role in taking that to the next level and helping them develop their AI service called Automate. So if you ever wanted to know how all this works, why it works, and what they're working on, don't miss this conversation. So join us as we chat with Cole Bishop. Whether you're looking to elevate your craftsmanship or looking to cut back on cost, look no further.
Vita MFT teeth are the ultimate solution for creating lifelike and stunning smiles.
Crafted with precision and backed by cutting-edge technology, Vita MFT teeth offer unparalleled aesthetics and durability.
And since Vita believes in the power of experiencing excellence firsthand, for a limited time only, they are offering you the chance to get a complimentary case sample.
That's right, a full case absolutely free. Just visit vitanorthamerica.com/free MFT.
Don't wait any longer to start providing your customers a premium tooth at an economy price. Redeem your free case sample, and if you're ready to buy, Vita will even give you an extra 10% off discount by shopping online on their newly launched online store.
Join the Vita family today, and we appreciate your support of the podcast. Voices from the Bench. The interview. These Thursday record. Wait, what day is it? Wednesday. These Wednesday recordings are throwing me off.
Right?
Barb and I are super excited today because we get to introduce to everybody here on the podcast. I'm going to call you Mr. 3shape.
Okay.
You think that's fair?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take that.
Cole Bishop, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys so much for having me. Very exciting to talk with you guys today.
Same here.
You've been on my to get on the podcast list for a while, and I apologize it's taken so long, but it's almost good that we waited because you've had some pretty decent growth and changes in the last couple years.
Yes, absolutely. There's been a lot of changes happening. Most of it's been pretty good, so
okay.
No complaints. I literally, I can't say there's really been anything bad, but it definitely has been a transition of a lot of changes.
Like we do with every other guest, How the hell did you find dental technology?
Oh man, very, very kind of interesting, but maybe I guess it could be kind of boring. But I'll give you a little bit of background on kind of how I
Yeah,
got into
please
this.
do.
So years ago, I actually right out of high school, I started working with my dad. My dad was in the drilling business, so he was a welder for many, many years.
I was going to say, what the hell's a drilling business? I drill holes all day.
Yeah, so they'd basically drill anything from precious stones to oil, water, anything that can be drilled, basically.
Interesting. Had no
So
idea.
I started with them and I worked in their machine shop. So I did a little bit of, I guess you would call it manual machine. So we would look at it as like an analog version of
Yep.
machine shop. So I did that for a while, and then I slowly worked into the CNC side of things. So I was working on different mills and CNC lathes. But it was one of those jobs where like my dad had worked 60, 70 hours a week. He would work 10 days on, 1 day off for his whole life. And
Ugh.
it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is just too much.
But that's what we do.
Yeah, right? So I guess in a way I went from that to this, and but
Yeah.
instead of working in like a shop environment, then I went into a lab environment. So with working with tiny things versus working with massive, huge drilling equipment. But it was very, very manual labor, and I didn't like it. And I had a friend that he worked for a dental lab, and he did model work, and I didn't even know what it was. Like I was like, so what do you actually do there? And he kind of talked me through a few things, and he told me that there was a position open. So I jumped for it, and that was way back in 2006. And it was Arrowhead Dental Lab. I'm sure you guys have heard of them.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
oh
a
yeah.
great first lab. Come
Amazing
on.
lab. Yes, great, great group of people. Born and raised in Salt Lake City, and the lab was literally like 2 miles from my house. I remember
You had no idea
driving.
it was there?
Yeah, I remember driving by it all the time as a kid and being like, "What the heck is that place?" So I ended up there. I did model work for probably about 2.5 years. At the time when I was working with Arrowhead, I was kind of just blinded in the model room. I didn't really even know what went into the process of making a crown. I just did my work. I poured impressions, cut out the die, trimmed the die, and that was basically it. Did that every day. But I started getting to a point where I was like, I'm ready to kind of, maybe move up and do something different.
So wait a minute. They let you trim the die, and you had no idea why you were
Well, it
trimming
took
it?
it took me a little bit to get to that point.
Sure, sure.
But it was a process. But I mean, it was a great lab to work for. But at the same
Yeah,
time, it was hard to move into a different position unless you really had some experience there. So
understood.
I
Yeah.
had I had a friend that her dad owned a small, just two-person lab. It was just her and her dad that worked there. And I went in there one day and I was like, hey, I want to learn wax and metal, which is very, very challenging next step. So
Mm-hmm.
I sat with him and learned how to do, some wax and cast metal, and did that with him for a little bit on the side. I did some model work for him while I learned that process. And then once I kind of got more familiar with that, I went to Chris Barnes and I said, hey, Chris, give me a shot in your wax and metal department. So he was able to give me that opportunity. And I worked in their metal substructure department for about 5 years. So I would say a total of about 6 or 7 years at Arrowhead.
So hold up. So you were ambitious enough while you worked there, you went or did you leave Arrowhead and go to the two-person lab to learn wax and metal, and then you went back and got a job with Chris?
I didn't leave Arrowhead, but on the side, I kind of did this like hour and a half thing after work, which
That is super
probably
ambitious. That's
Yeah, it is.
incredible.
I knew that I actually really enjoyed what I did. I loved working in the dental lab. It was something fun for me and something different. But I knew there was so much more to expand in the industry. So I wanted to make that next jump. And that's where I, landed at this other lab and did some side work for them. And then that transitioned into working as a full-time substructure metal tech at Arrowhead.
Yeah, it's super impressive though to see that you went outside to learn it and then came back and said, "Hey, give me a shot." It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Chris was kind enough to let me do that, and I really loved working for Arrowhead. But I got to a point where it was my girlfriend at the time. We decided that we were kind of over Salt Lake City. I mean, we had both grown up there. The culture there isn't doesn't really fit in with what we want to be. So we decided to just make a jump and move to California.
Wow.
I didn't even have a job. I literally just picked up and sold everything, and we moved to Southern California. Originally, we were planning to move in the San Diego area, so I applied for a few different labs there. There just wasn't really a lot going on at that time, but I ended up finding a lab in Southern California area right in Aliso Viejo area. It was called World Lab. It was a
World Lab?
World Lab, and they also
Huh.
had like a high-end lab upstairs called Ultimate Styles. I'm sure you guys have heard of them.
Actually, no, that's pretty. I have
Yeah,
not,
no.
which I love hearing about labs that I've never heard about.
Yeah, and it was another amazing lab to work for. Most of their locations and their clinics and labs are actually in Japan, so they're a Japanese-owned lab. They do a lot of really, really high-end work. But I was really able to kind of improve my skills with them in all areas. So they gave me some opportunity in different areas of the lab to kind of grow. But I grew into a role of more kind of an operations manager there. So I got to a point where I wasn't so much at the bench anymore, but I was more so kind of overseeing different departments.
Wow.
Did you like that?
I did. Yeah, I did to a certain point, but it was also difficult culture just because I was literally like the only American there. Everyone else was Japanese. So
Yeah.
there was a little bit of a language barrier, but they were all just amazing technicians to work with. Different protocols and aspects on how to approach certain things. So it was cool to see the different styles of how they do things, and it kind of opened me up to see, there's more than just one way to do certain things, which was really awesome to see.
How many people were you managing?
It was a smaller team. It was only about 5 or 6 people.
Still, it's a lot of people to manage. I
Yeah,
mean, still.
And at the time for me, like I'd never been in a management role, so it wasn't anything that was like super. It was very new to me.
Yeah.
But it was also, it was a really fun time. I loved living there, but we got to a point where California just wasn't for us. It was just
Too expensive, too liberal.
Yep,
Too all those
exactly.
things. Yeah.
The people, the crowds. Luckily, my commute.
Terrible weather.
Yeah, I guess that's the one good thing about there is the weather.
Yeah.
But even for me, California's too cold, so I'm kind of a wuss with the cold, to be honest. That's why I'm in Phoenix now. Like I can't wait for this 110-degree weather to come. I'm a heat person.
Well, hopefully you don't get over that. What's the next? The sun?
Yeah, so I worked there for about 2 years, and we decided to move back to Salt Lake City.
Why did you decide to move back to Salt Lake City?
Well, 2 reasons. So my girlfriend got pregnant, she's now my wife. We have 2 kids now. And our families begged us to come back because it was the first girl grandchild in the family. So there was like 6 boys, and everyone just begged us to move back. So I was like, all right, let's move back.
That's a great reason.
Yeah, and it was better too, just because, we're surrounded by family. We could actually get into a house. We didn't have to cram into some tiny apartment for $2,500 a month back at the time.
True.
So it gave us the opportunity to grow our family and be with our extended family, which was an awesome opportunity. So moving back to Salt Lake City, I actually ended up at Treasure Dental Studio with Jeff Strunk.
Come on.
Yes,
shut up, really?
Yes. Which Jeff is
Hi, Jeff.
great friend of mine.
Yep.
He's such an amazing person.
Yep.
And I mean,
well, what's it like to work for him?
I echo that, but yeah.
It's awesome. I like Jeff. I really don't have anything bad to say about him.
And Elvis, he wouldn't say it on this podcast anyways.
Sure, yeah.
But
exactly.
we both know Jeff's a good dude, so.
Yeah, we love Jeff.
He is. He's awesome. He really opened me up into the digital world of things. I mean, when I started there, I was working in wax and metal, so I was doing gold crowns and wax and metal here and there, and he was the one that really pushed for the digital side of things. So they had a 3shape, a D2000, and a D700. And he basically told me, let's jump into this digital. I want to push you more towards this direction. You're still young. There's still a lot of opportunity in the digital world. So that was really the day that I was like, okay, I'm no longer going to be at the bench anymore. I'm moving into this digital side of things, and who knows if I'll ever grind a PFM anymore or opaque a PFM. Like, I'm fine with that in a way. Definitely had some challenges over the years with casting and miscasting and cutting bridges and soldering and welding. I was okay with that decision.
Was Treasure already doing digital, or
Yeah,
did they bring it on for you?
they were already doing digital, but I would
Okay.
say, I want to say like 50-50. So 50% of
Sure.
their work they were doing still PFM and porcelain, and the other digital. So Jeff was always really trying to grow the digital side of things in his lab, which
Oh,
has
sure.
obviously paid off. They do a lot.
Can you think of what year that was, if I might ask?
Let's see. So I started there, I want to say it would have been about 2013 or 2014.
Yeah, so he was early in it. That's cool. I'm
Yeah,
not
and
surprised.
I think he had already been doing digital for probably, I would say at least a year prior to me joining there. So they already had a good system going on. They were also working a little bit with the old like Nobel scanners and all those.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
The fun ones.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what about you? Did you have computer experience? Did
I
you
did a little
enjoy it?
bit because from working in the machine shop.
Do they have computers in Salt Lake City? I'm just kidding.
I love that. Any diss on Salt Lake City, I'll take. Still a great place. I mean, it's changed a lot. It's a lot better than
Yeah.
what it was, but any diss I'll take.
So, did you have a lot of computer experience growing up, or?
A little bit, yeah. So, I mean, working with my dad on CNC lathes, there's a little bit of like programming in that. So I had
Yeah.
some experience there, but in fact, this is kind of a funny story actually. Before I started on Jeff's team working with 3shape, actually the very first design software I ever used in my life was CloudPoint by Glidewell.
What the
Ah,
hell?
wow.
I don't remember that.
So, and to be honest with you, like their design software was actually pretty impressive.
What happened to him?
I'm not quite sure. They had this little
But they
Oh.
weren't
CloudPoint
dental, were
scanner.
they?
No, they were dental. So they
They
would
were.
provide you with a scanner. It was like a swing arm scanner. You
Yep.
would put your model on there, and the arm would swing, and then it would have some lasers that would scan it, and then it would open up design software in their cloud. From what I understand, they would collect the data. You had to be on their cloud server to design their cases, but it only lasted for, and I could be wrong on this, it only lasted for about a year, and then it's
Interesting.
just gone. Like I didn't hear anything else about it. But that's really what kind of gave me the tools in the 3D space to get familiar with things, and then I moved
Yep.
into the 3shape side of things. But Jeff had me jump right in. I mean, I went from designing single units, 3 unit bridges, and then he was like, "Well, let's do all on X. Let's figure out a way.
Yeah.
Let's figure out a way to do all on X cases. Let's move forward." So it was a big challenge.
Well, how do you move forward? I mean, how did you learn? Like, what did you
Oh,
do?
man, YouTube videos and the Facebook study group, that was probably my biggest resource of learning how to use things. Plus Jeff, I mean, Jeff knows everybody, right? So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
anyone that knows anything about the industry at all, Jeff has a contact. So he was always really good about putting pressure on us to learn different ways how to do things and get creative, which really kind of helped me pave the way of knowing a lot of the details and things that are required to design something as challenging as an all on X.
Wow.
Yeah, really, really exciting time. So I worked with Jeff all the way up until 2019. And at that time, my wife and we were fed up with Salt Lake again. So we wanted to make a change. We didn't really have like a place in mind where we wanted to go, but we knew that we wanted to move somewhere with a warmer climate. So we had a few places in mind, like Florida and Texas and Phoenix. But at the time, working for Treasure, we were outsourcing a little bit here and there, some of our work, some of our overflow work to Full Contour, which is
Full contour.
Yep.
who I'm with now, which is now
That's
3shape
cool.
Design Services.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had a really good relationship with Jesse Lejeune during that time because he was the one that I'd communicate with our cases. And I noticed that they had a position open in Phoenix, and I was actually coming down here for an interview with a different lab, and Rob Lejeune caught wind that I was down here, and he called me while I was down here. He's like, "Hey, before you go home, just come and stop by Full Contour." So I came in, and he's like, "We're just gonna interview you." And I wasn't necessarily like there for Full Contour.
You weren't prepared.
But you
No,
said,
no.
what the hell?
So I showed up. I extended my stay by one night, and yeah, the rest is history. I mean, they offered me a position. The other lab did too, but I took a leap and decided to go with the Legers and full contour. And I will say today I'm very, very happy with that decision I made. I think it's been an awesome journey. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about too with being, the transition from full
Yeah.
contour to 3shape design services, but it's been an amazing move, and I love this industry. It's always something that's changing, and it's been a very exciting time for me.
So what did you do when you joined Full Contour? Like, were you designing, or what was the job like?
So they were looking for quality control, like a design quality manager. That's basically what I started in as. So Rob told me, I remember this very, very clearly, because at that time I never really had a whole lot of interaction with doctors and with customers. I mean, I was just sitting at the bench, doing my work, headphones in for 8 hours of the day, and I didn't have to talk to
Sure.
anyone.
And that's kind of like a lot of dental techs, you're
Yeah,
just kind of in
exactly.
your own world doing your thing.
Just get your work done.
Yep.
Get your work done so you can go home.
Yeah.
So that's what I was used to. And I remember very clearly Rob asking me, "So how do you feel about public speaking?" And obviously I wanted to, in my mind, I was like, maybe I'll just say I'm comfortable with it because, I would love this opportunity. But I was like, no, I'm not comfortable with it. So I told him, I said, "Rob, that's something I'll never want to do." He's like, "Okay, okay, okay. I understand. We won't have you do any public speaking." It's like, okay.
But it's kind of
So
great that he threw it out there and he put that in your
yeah,
head, correct?
exactly.
Yep.
So so he hired me, started, and then within, let's see, I joined in early of 2019.
Pandemic time, eh?
Yeah, so then the very next LMT,
Uh,
I had been signed up for like 4 lectures, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." So I'd never lectured before in my life. And so
Wow.
that's where it
And
all
you did
started.
4 at LMT Chicago
Oh
the
my
first
gosh,
time.
yeah. It was probably one of the most like
But you just said you didn't
nerve-wracking
want
things.
to. How'd you go from not wanting to doing 4 lectures at freaking lab day for all
Have you
places?
met Rob? You can talk you into doing anything.
Yeah. So Rob pushed me to that level, which was actually, something I needed. I needed to grow. I'm happy that he did it. And I mean, now I can't even say how many times I've lectured or done webinars.
Yeah.
Totally, totally comfortable with it now. But without being like, pushed outside of my comfort zone, I just wouldn't have known that. But the reason why he really pushed for that is when I first started, Full Contour didn't really have a great process for high aesthetic anterior cases.
Hmm.
So as you guys know, when it comes to cosmetic dentistry, when someone's outsourcing a full mouth case, you can have the best designer in the world design the case, but the customer is going to have multiple different opinions. You have the
Oh, sure,
So
designer
sure.
that has
true.
an opinion, you
Yep.
have the doctor that has an opinion, the patient, the lab. So you have to bridge the gap of everybody and get them all on the same page to really deliver what that customer's needs are. So that was my first project with Full Contour, was to build what's called our Lucid offering. So I went into detail on everything from line angles, surface texture, embrasures. So we customized our offering to give our customers the ability to, you know, they'll say, "Give me the Vita T6L library, but it's going to be for a female patient. So we want rounded incisal embrasures, and we want our line angles placed a certain way, and we want a little bit more soft surface texture." So things like that, we really wanted to customize the offering to give our customers the ability to be able to make it exactly what they wanted.
I think when we had Rob on, he talked about the menu
Yeah,
of choices. Is that what you're talking about? Where
exactly.
you worked out the options for cosmetic?
Exactly. So
Interesting.
Full Contour, going back to the early days when I first started, we've always had this incredible platform that we use for our customers to send us cases. But we had this dilemma that we would run into where, again, it goes back to all these different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So customers would type to us using different terminology across the globe, get lost in translation because we have our design center in Asia, our design center in Costa Rica. So sometimes it was hard to manage the communication and get the customer exactly what they needed. So we decided to come up with this idea of design guide codes, which is exactly what you're speaking about, is like
Yeah, yeah.
basically our menu. So customers could go in and we would have a clickable design guide codes. So there'd be an image with a brief description as to what they were trying to order. So it gives our designers the ability to look at those images and then, correlate that with their design and make sure everything's exactly what they need. And that's kind of what we've built. In the beginning, we had probably about 60 design guide codes total
That's what
on
I
our
was thinking.
platform.
There's got to be a ton of them, right?
Yeah, I think last time I checked, we're like close to 1,600 now. And it's
Wow.
all
1,600?
yes. So it's all built on, and I know that sounds overwhelming because if you think of it from like a customer's perspective,
By the time you select everything, you might as well just design the thing yourself.
right? But what we've done is we've built it out by different categories and indications. So if you create a 3shape order for a denture, for example, when you use the 3shape dental integration, which sends your case directly to our platform, our platform reads the XML and auto parses it as a denture. So once our platform reads denture, then it pulls up just the denture design guide codes for dentures.
That's so
So then
smart.
you're
That
not
does
sitting
make
there
sense.
sorting through like, oh, obviously I'm not going to put a lingual collar on a denture.
Yep.
It's not like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Everything that's just specific to that indication.
Well, that makes
So
perfect sense. Was that your idea?
yeah, I mean, it was me and Micah Lejeune as well, the third brother, which also an amazing person, kind of put our heads together and built
And
that.
said, how can we make this a little easier and streamline it?
Yeah, and I mean that's really what it's all about, right? You want to make the easiest way for someone to order something and get it back exactly how they want it. So it's
Yeah.
been a lot of effort over the years, and we're constantly, enhancing things and making it better. But again, I think joining the Lejeune family and being on Rob's team has really pushed me to that, extra level to make some differences in this industry, and it's been a really, really awesome journey.
You mentioned that you did quality control for full contour. Did that mean that you saw everything that came through? There must have been so many you couldn't have.
Yeah, so even as of today, I'm still, my role is director of design quality. So I oversee both our Asia and Costa Rica design centers, but I also have a team under me that works directly with me. So pretty much everything that comes through, we have a very in-depth process of how we track and monitor our design quality and our designers' performance.
Can you go through that with us?
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
curious.
So let's say, for example, a customer sends us a bridge case. When that bridge
Mm-hmm.
case lands on our platform, it gets sorted to a specific team depending on who that customer is tied to. So within that team, we have a number of designers that are familiar with that customer's preferences and their design styles. And all those design styles and preferences are also customizable by that customer.
Hmm.
So if our
Per case.
per case, and it
Yeah,
also could be
jeez.
as like a default as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the amazing things about our platform too is any of the settings, like let's say material and manufacturing settings from 3shape, as soon as a customer creates an order, let's say they're using a argon zirconia, all of that information from the manufacturing file and the materials travel with the case to our platform. So it's maintained within that zip folder. So our designers aren't having to go in and like adjust cement spaces and margin
That's what
line
I was going to
offsets.
say. I was just thinking that in
Yeah,
my head.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, as it comes to like fit and manufacturing, like that's already built in, that's baked in. Like there's no concerns there. But when you come to the different things about opinion and with anatomy and contours and line angles and all of that, that's where the design guide codes come in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, we've built it to where, kind of as I talked about our different preferences and design guide codes, a customer can go in there and create their own profile. So if they want their contacts to, zero point 0.3 out of occlusion, they want their neighboring contacts to minus 0.02, they can set certain things in there as well to where every single one of their cases that come through will have those details provided. And it also goes as deep as design guide codes too. So they can
Wow.
set certain line angles, certain anatomies. The other amazing tool that's available is if a lab has multiple doctors and they want to set up doctor profiles, they can do that as well, which will all travel. So
Oh,
we've
jeez.
really tried to make it as easy as possible. And it also helps me and my team on the quality side to be able to really monitor that. So then if I go back to, as I was talking, customer sends us a bridge,
Yep.
goes to our design team, goes to a specific designer. That designer designs the case. They take a variety of screenshots and they upload the complete zip folder back onto the platform. And then the
Mm-hmm.
customer has the ability to review the screenshots and they can make their decision from there and download the case. However, if they need to make any changes to it for a redesign, we redesign everything for free. So they'll click on redesign, and then there's a category with various different options to select as to why it needs to be redesigned. So let's say
1,600 choices.
and that's another area that we've tried to narrow down so it's not so overwhelming. But
Yeah.
your major things like distance to antagonist wasn't followed,
Yeah.
or too tight of contacts, or whatever the case is. But what's nice about that is they'll select that option, and then that all ties into our Power BI system, which is where we track performance, so we can see who the designer was, how much time they spent on it, when they uploaded the case, and then also if there's any redesigns, we can see what that redesign reason is and track their performance. So it'll go back to the design team, they'll make the change, and then move forward from there. And then we have the customer information on how we can really look into the performance, not only from the designer but on a customer basis as well. So we can see, if we're struggling with certain customers, we need to get on a call and talk with them on preferences and see if there's things that we can do to kind of clean that up.
When you're working with the designers, do you guys measure, or do you have like an average number of clicks, like for an anterior or for a posterior? And do you look at that or measure that?
We do. And that, when I first started, one of my first trips I did out to China to work with the team, is I did a little program with them on to see how many clicks we're doing per, like, let's say, like a simple posterior crown.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we can all agree in the digital space, sometimes more clicks it just makes it worse, right? Like, you
Yeah,
can sit there and
that's why I was
once you
asking.
get to a certain point, once you get to a certain number of clicks, it's almost better to just undo all and go back to your proposal.
Yeah.
So we really had to kind of push that on them, because I did see, quite a few that were just overworking cases.
Pardon my French, but you kind of around with it after a certain time. It's like, stop,
Yeah, exactly.
especially like a ceramist mine. You just want to change this and change that. And sometimes you just don't need to. It's already there. You just run it, look at it, and go with it.
Yep.
Well, do you remember in the early 2000s at Cal Lab, everybody was talking about clicks, how many clicks it was to do this, and it was a number we all compared, but not many people talk about it anymore.
Yeah, I think we're to a point now where anybody that's experienced in 3shape or any design software in general,
Uh-huh.
the proposals are much better. The software's been improved. So
Sure.
if you know what you're doing, you can design a crown in very little clicks. I mean, obviously you'll come across some of those cases where you've got a terrible prep, or, you know, preps are going in all different directions and you're working on a bridge and you have to make quite a few adjustments. But in general, the software does a lot of the work for you, and it's there.
Yep.
Yeah. So how big is your team now with 3shape?
So on my team specifically for design quality, I have 4 people that work with me, but I also,
Yep.
from a global perspective, so I have 2 people that are primarily in the US, that work with our
Mm-hmm.
US customers, and then I also have a couple that work more on the European side and global as well. So that's also been a huge transition from full contour to 3shape design services, is opening up to the global market.
Yeah.
You see a huge variety in how labs are, managing their cases, and also, just different styles of things. We had a big customer in France where they do a lot of post and core. So post and core was something that our designers didn't have a whole lot of experience in the digital side. Like, you can do a post and core in 3shape, but the way the French market does it is a lot different than what the US market does. So we're constantly
Really?
evolving and trying to find ways to, understand how to support different areas of the globe, which has also been, an exciting but challenging opportunity as well.
Well, now I'm curious, and maybe you don't know this, but what do they print the post in core and cast it?
Yes, typically that's what they
Okay.
would do.
I was like, no one's doing zirconia post in cores, are they?
Yeah, and the French market, I mean, they're all over post and core. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe it's more so related to like a insurance billable item. So it's easier for
Oh, that makes sense.
doctors and patients to have that, fall under their insurance.
I've got an aesthetic tooth shape question for you. Do you find in different countries, for sure in Asia and those areas, that the doctors stick with a similar tooth shape based on the type of person or people that live in those countries?
Oh, absolutely. So what we see a lot with, and that's actually a great question. When we launched our Lucid offering, it was all, mostly our US based customers, and they were all over it. They loved it. But it hasn't really been as big of a growth in our European market because
They look like the US.
they like to have that, that they want to maintain their existing character, like they want to maintain their personality, that like they've had those teeth for their whole life.
Yep.
So they still have some cases that we'll work on where they want to have like some slight rotation and maybe maintain a diastema and not have these perfect Hollywood teeth like we see in the States.
Hmm.
So it's definitely a challenge with anterior cases outside of the US because I think people are a little bit more particular with maintaining their existing look.
But that had to push you guys to get better and say, okay, let's tweak it and make these shapes a little different and expand the
Absolutely.
catalog. So by using the customer feedback, it sounds like.
Yep, exactly. And that's where we love to have a pre-op.
Yeah.
Because then we have at least something to follow, or an image, something that we can use as a reference to give them what they need.
Yeah, but how often do you get those?
It kind of depends. So in the beginning with our Lucid offering, we required either a pre-op or they had to give us a basic length of centrals, just
Yeah.
so that.
Hmm.
And the way I train the team in China, our Lucid team, is we use the golden Shimbashi rule. So based on the length of centrals that they give us, that's how we kind of establish our length and width, and then everything from there is customizable. Line angles, surface texture, and sisal edges, but it really gives us at least somewhat of a starting point so that we're not just throwing teeth in and fitting the space.
It gives you a very accurate starting point, in my opinion. That's
Absolutely.
pretty
Yes.
brilliant.
Hmm. Going back to when you're at full contour, and then you were told you're becoming 3shape now.
Yes.
How'd that go over?
In the beginning, I was like, oh, no problem. I mean, I think that's just going to give us more resources. And at that time, I had no clue that any of the Leisures were planning to depart from the company.
Yeah.
So it was just, okay, well, we have more access to, ask questions to certain people on the lab team in Denmark, and we can collaborate a little bit more and, work together to push the business and make it bigger. But then once Jesse left, it was a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
it was like an oh moment, like
I was going to say,
something.
oh,
Yeah, something might be changing bigger. And then shortly after that, Micah left, and at that point, we kind of all knew it's only a matter of
Yeah.
time. And Rob has always been like a mentor to me, so
Yeah.
having him depart was a huge hit for our team. But at the same time, Rob did a fantastic job of building a very, very strong leadership team with Full Contour and 3shape Design Services. So when he left, we were all sad, but we were very prepared. We knew what we
Sure.
had to do, and we worked without a general manager or a leader for a few months, and we did a fantastic job. We continued to grow, and then from there we brought on a new GM, which her name is Sandra, and she has been absolutely fantastic. And she's also been very critical and crucial to help us continue the collaboration with 3shape in Denmark. And it's been a great journey. I really have no complaints. Like I said, it's been hard to lose Rob. Still great friends, and but again, he built such an amazing team.
and it makes perfect shape, or no pun
Ha ha
intended.
ha
That's
ha.
funny. That three shape, that it's a perfect marriage. Are you planning on like going to Denmark and checking out that facility there?
Yeah, I am. I've actually been there a few times, and I'm going in.
Nice.
I'm going in a couple weeks. So very excited for that.
So when you go, like, what do you do? Like, what you just train, or do you train them?
And can you ask them if they want a podcast with us?
I will absolutely ask them, Elvis, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
So a couple years ago was my first time that I went out there, and I met with our business development guy on our design services team. His name is Tarek. He's absolutely amazing. And we did kind of like a tour of Europe to visit customers, which was really fun. So
Oh, I bet you that was really cool.
yeah, we got to go to a few different countries and meet with some of our customers in Europe and, get familiar with their design preferences and really dial in some things there and strengthen those communications and relationships. And then just meeting with the team there in Denmark. I've also had a lot of involvement with AI and on the Automate side. Since the very
Talk about
Oh,
early
that.
days.
we're going to get to that in a
Oh.
second. I want to know what really changed when 3shape kind of, I guess, took over is the word. I mean, was it just usual full contour?
I would say it was a very slow and painless transition.
Yeah.
Sweet. Why slow?
Not slow in a way of like they
Drag their
they
feet.
dragged their feet. It was more of a just like very well prepared.
Nice.
They wanted to make sure that the whole process going from full contour all the way to fully owned by 3shape was painless. So there wasn't a lot of big jumps and changes. So 3shape was fantastic about letting us operate the way that we had been, but slowly implementing new ways to, improve the business and grow. And no complaints at all. I mean, it was a great transition, and we already had a lot of great communication with 3shape prior,
Oh,
so
I
it
would
was
imagine,
easy.
yeah.
It was easy, very easy.
Plus, the whole reason they bought full contours because they knew you guys knew what you were doing.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
So can we talk about AI now, Elvis?
I guess, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so this was, very exciting to me. Rob came to me years back and told me that they were working on some AI technology, and I was pretty excited to hear about it. It was still, at the time, it was very, kind of hush hush, but I worked closely with the Autodonics team at 3shape, and we have some amazing developers over there. And
What was that called? Onodontics?
Autodonics, yeah.
I've never heard of that word.
A great group of super way more intelligent than me AI developers, and worked with them very closely for a few years to start Automate. In the beginning, it was a lot of work, a lot of changes that had to be made. It definitely wasn't perfect. It still isn't perfect, but it's pretty damn close. But we've gotten it to the point where now we just surpassed 2 million crowns at a 91% success rate.
That is
So
nuts.
we're pretty happy with it. I believe we're still the leaders in the AI business for dentistry, but there's also a lot of competitors that are coming up. But I think we've done a lot of homework and done a lot of work to make it the best there is out there.
Can you walk somebody like me that's not real familiar with it? So it's the proposal, but it's automatic. Like, so you don't have to have somebody tweak it, or you do, or like what happens?
The awesome thing about Automate, where it is today, is a customer can, let's say you open your dental manager and you have 20 cases. You can literally highlight all 20 of them and click a button. They will all send to Automate, and within 90 seconds, they will all be back ready to review. There's a few
Wow.
things. So when you go into the Automate platform, there's a series of screenshots that you click through. So it'll show you your heat maps for your distance to antagonists, your neighboring contacts. It'll give you a view of your marginal ridges, your overall anatomy. And then from there, you have the option to either accept and download that STL, or you can download it and bring it back into 3shape and make edits into there. So once you bring it back into 3shape, your icon will change from scan to design. So it's just as though you designed it in-house, and you can do whatever you want to it in there. But there's also our cloud editor where you can make edits in the Automate program with some basic tools like add, remove, and smooth, and make some adjustments there before you download. But the powerful thing about Automate is it's at scale. So regardless of how many units you send, you'll still get them back in your turnaround time. But you also
90 seconds.
Yes. And
I love it how that's still considered turnaround time. It's barely any time. I mean,
well, believe me, sometimes we'll get some that'll take a little bit longer to process. Like it'll take like 95 seconds or 100 seconds, and someone's like, "Oh, why is it taking a little bit longer?" It happens every once in a while, but with anything that's processing, there could be a little bit of a latency there. But in general,
Yeah.
everything's ready in 90 seconds. But even with that, the Automate platform, everything is free to use. The only thing you pay for is when you actually download. So even if you make changes inside the cloud editor and, adjust some cusp tips and you're still not happy with it, if you reject it, you don't pay anything. So it's really nice to give users the ability to just kind of make their decision on their own. But it is also, it's built to be completely hands off. So ultimately, the goal is to have to where the customer doesn't have to do anything.
So do you think that part of that is more of like the doctors, where the doctors can use that part of it for their single posterior molars, or if they're milling in-house? Or do you think it's both 50-50 doctors and labs, or more labs?
I would say it's actually more labs. And the reason why is one important thing to note is in the beginning with Automate and still today, if you want to send a crown, we need to know your manufacturing process and your material. So without that, we don't know what you're milling it out of. We don't know what your cement space is going to be.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's important to have a 3shape order that has that information so that those settings can be applied. Now, it also works for ExoCAD cases as well, but we need to have that project file so that we can read that information. So from a doctor's perspective, we need to know what their manufacturing protocol is going to be in order for it to work. So it's a little bit different. And there's, if a doctor has like a trios and they have that information, then they could absolutely use 3shape Automate to be able to transfer that information. But I would say, as it stands today, the majority of our users are labs.
But you still have to have the 3shape software, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, even if you have ExoCAD, anything that can give us a file to where we know that it's going to be.
So you have to at least have design software.
Yeah, and it's primarily 3shape and ExoCAD, I should say. Actually, I mean, we can't work with like a Sirona file.
Yeah, if someone has the Prime scan, they can't use this unless it's exported to you via ExoCAD or 3shape.
Right. What we see with even if somebody, let's say a clinic has a small lab that they produce, maybe they print or mill some single unit crowns, simple stuff. If they have like a Trios inbox that gives them the ability to at least set up an order with their materials and manufacturing, they could use it no problem. So they don't have to have the full design software. They just have to have the ability to set up an order.
Okay, so you don't need all the modules and all that.
Right. Right.
So the customer doesn't necessarily know it's being done through AI, but you guys know, right? So do you make the decision whether to send it right or left? How does that work?
So we support both our technician side, which is our design service platform, and then Automate. However, cases that come to us, we never will send it to Automate if it's not supposed to go. So if they send it to Automate, great, that goes to Automate. But if they send it to design services, yes, they have the choice.
So it's the client's choice and not your choice. That's interesting. Okay,
exactly.
I didn't know that.
I imagine you're seeing a lot more go to Automate.
Yeah, and I mean, that was something that in the beginning we were like, is this going to cannibalize the business? But at the same time, this industry is moving forward so fast, and our Automate volume has grown like crazy over the past couple of years. But I wouldn't say that our standard design, technician human side of things has dropped. It's grown as well.
Well, because now they can take on, dentures and hybrids and anterior cases and all the harder things to do, and get the smaller, peas, if you will, off their plate so they can focus on the really, really difficult cases. It makes perfect sense, I think.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing too. One thing we struggled with in the beginning when we would lecture on AI is a lot of the technicians would say, "Oh, this is taking our job." And I was like, "No, it's really not though. It's just another tool. That's all it is it's another software tool to be able to increase your productivity, right?"
Right.
You look at digital as the same thing. Back in the day, I remember a lot of analog technicians saying, digital will never go anywhere. And I think where it is today is pretty impressive.
Right.
And it's still, it's still growing rapidly. So,
can't you just think of it as a really good proposal crown that could just be done?
Yeah, you could.
Bring everything back in, and if you want to tweak it to your technician's heart desire, you could.
Yeah, we actually have quite a few users that they'll do blind milling. So they're to a point now where they're so happy and confident with Automate that they send everything that can go to automate, and then they bring it back in through FTP and they mill it. And then once the technician's at their bench, if they have to make some minor adjustments to it, then they'll do that at that point.
But they probably don't have models.
It depends. You can also do models through automate. So
that's insane.
So outside of crowns, we have night guards that can be done. Simple models is what we call them, copings, and then also retainer models. So with those other indications, we don't necessarily need a 3shape order. So today, if you have an upper and lower scan of a patient and you have the bite established for a night guard, you can just drag and drop those scans in and it's going to create a night guard for you.
Sweet. That sounds really easy.
Yeah, so really the only thing that we need information on from a lab perspective today for automate is crowns and copings, because we need to have that manufacturing information.
Yeah, so you know whether it's an Emax or a zirconia or whatever, therefore the spacer's changing.
Exactly, yeah.
How bad were your first AI crowns? Do you remember, like, they were just so off, you're like, we're never going to get this?
There was definitely a point where I was like, I don't know about this. I mean, we've got, a set of 50 here and 20 of them are okay, but there's a few in here that I don't even know what that is. That's not a crown.
That's hilarious.
But, over time, just fine tuning things and improving the algorithm. I mean, we're at a point today where we're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, would you say 92%?
91.
Yeah, 91% with over 2 million downloads.
Damn. Is it cheaper to automate? Like if the client, is there a different cost to go with AI, the automated?
Yeah, so it's all based on our turnaround time. So for a regular user, a 90-second crown is $2.99.
Cool.
And then if they want to do a 10-hour design, which would be ready to them, next day typically. So a lot of labs will wait till the end of the day, send a bunch of cases. That's $1.99.
Wow, that's awesome.
A whole dollar.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's meaningful. I mean, seriously, I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I think most of our users use both our platforms. So they use design services and automate kind of together, just depending on their client needs. So they'll get a lot of their single units out so that their design technicians can focus on the larger cases.
Yeah, that's where I see it. What can automate not do?
So today, automate cannot do bridges. It can do a full upper, lower, neighboring teeth, opposing teeth. We do not have the ability to do bridges yet. We're definitely working on it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some challenges there with the ponic area, how they want their ponic designed, tissue pressure, ridge lap, ovate. There's, a lot of different things that we have to think about. And yeah.
1,600 more options.
Exactly. So I think, we're getting close. It's all about, trying to find the best way to manage that. But it's pretty close. Actually, it's been probably about a couple months now since we launched anteriors. In the past, it was just posteriors. But now we're offering anteriors as well.
What's that percentage of acceptance? Still 91?
No, it's not quite that much.
Yeah.
I think as it relates to like contacts and occlusion, it's pretty dead on. But as you guys know, when it comes to anteriors, there's so many more variables and opinions involved.
Well, one of us knows.
Yeah.
Sorry, Elvis.
No, it's so true.
I mean, we're seeing people use it regularly, and I think having the ability to make some minor edits to it on their end gives them a little bit more flexibility to make those changes.
Yeah.
But again, it's pretty new anterior, so it's something that will improve over time. But yeah, it's been awesome to see how far we've come. We started with just one single unit, so you could only do one single unit in the posterior. Even if there was an opposing tooth, we couldn't do that. And now we're to the point where we can do a full arch.
See, I didn't even know that. I thought it was just simple singles here and there, but you're doing opposings and full arches?
Yes.
Wow.
And sometimes that's the hard message to get across to some of the people that are a little bit on the fence with AI is, they tried it. Let me put it this way. If you tried it 3 months ago, it's likely that there's so many new enhancements and improvements and different options. Like 3 months is a long time for technology. So it's always something that we're constantly trying to, market and let people know, like, hey, there's a new feature, there's a new function in here. We've improved marginal ridges, or we've given you the ability to have broad contacts versus light contacts, things like that.
And if you try it and you still don't like it, it didn't cost you a thing.
Yes, exactly. That's why I think we're at a moment now where everybody should be trying AI.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody should. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Try it again in a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to bed, wake up the next day, and try it again.
Yes.
What about implant work? AI doing any of that?
Not yet, no. The challenge there is all the different platforms.
Sure.
I think we will get there at some point, but it's going to be a slow process, because getting every single platform on board and all the different geometries, there's definitely a lot of work to put in there. But I mean, even today, if you scan a tie base on a model and close the screw access hole, that's no problem. It'll design a crown, no problem.
AI will.
Yep. And even like a core file, so like an Atlantis custom abutment.
Sure. Or just scanning a custom abutment itself.
Yep.
AI will think it's just a prep and
Exactly.
do what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That's pretty exciting. I guess I should wrap up by asking what's next, and it seems like we know what's next. More AI, right?
More AI. More AI, and again, like, I think we're constantly looking to grow and build different indications. Since I've started, we've put together quite a few different indications through 3shape, so we're to a point now where we offer everything inside of 3shape. One of the big pushes, is I'm sure you guys have seen, the market really has grown in digital dentures, so we're putting a lot of pressure in that area as well to grow that.
Are you a part of that? I mean, creating
Yes.
what needs to happen, what needs to change, what needs to get better?
Yeah, and it's been a challenge, because when 3shape first launched the denture module, we jumped right in and started offering outsourced design services, but we found that a lot of the labs out there kind of had their own way of doing dentures to make things work based on the lack of materials. So we found ourselves kind of customizing every single denture and every single customer. But I think we're getting to a point now where materials are much better and people are starting to feel a lot more comfortable with digital dentures.
Mm-hmm.
So we've really narrowed down our offering to align with the industry standard as it relates to digital dentures.
Nice.
That's obviously not $1.99.
Yeah.
No, it's a little more than that.
Yeah. I was going to say.
Yeah. Super exciting.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, Cole, that's some great stuff. I mean, I had no idea you worked at all those other labs before you got into full contour, and I love seeing you that you're up on stage and doing that and just spreading the good word. I love it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's been a fun journey. I really love this industry. I think it's great people too. I mean, there's so many good people in this industry.
100%.
Yep.
People like to have fun, so that's what I'm all about.
You got big speaking engagements lined up this year?
Yeah, I'll be at Lab Day West, so
perfect.
I'll be speaking there on our All on X offering. So excited for that.
Nice. Well, Cole, thank you so much, man.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and we'll see you at the next show.
Yes, we
All right,
will.
sounds good.
All right, have a good one.
Okay, you too, guys. We'll see ya.
A huge thanks to Cole for coming on our podcast and talking about your amazing journey into being a leader in the digital dental space. Guys, 3shape plays a huge role in our industry and stays on top of giving labs what they need to succeed. And it's really great to know that the one leading their design services and even their AI was once a bench technician. And he understands what we do all day, every single day. We cannot wait to see what is next and how those services will help us do more restorations more efficiently and better for all of our patients. Great story.
Yeah, Cole, we appreciate it. We'll see you at the next show.
Yes, we will.
And we will talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Have a great week. It's only 4 days.
Happy Memorial Day.
You know it.
Bye.
Oh, really? Well, that's kind of normal for us.
The views and opinions expressed on the Voices from the Bench podcast are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the host or Voices from the Bench, LLC.